Hey, good morning, Sam.
Hey Joshua,
How you doing, buddy?
you and I are both still in bed. Looks like.
Yes, we are. I'm just getting up.
Me too. I just drove 3 hours out of the last five and got 2 hours sleep, so I'm not going to be very coherent.
Oh my gosh. Do you want me to hang out and see if anyone comes or just you tell them yeah, you should probably get some rest, man.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going to hang out and make somebody host and see if I can listen, but I'm not sure
All
I'm going to
right.
be very participatory.
I totally understand. What-
I just got back from San
Is
Jose
that
last night.
everything?
The flight was an hour late, so I got in around 11:30, drove an hour to get home. But Ronnie is going to California today, so she had to be at the airport by 5. So we got up and left the house at 4. So that's what my last night was. That's my schedule for the last few hours.
A lot of traveling, man. You have a good car?
I have a Nissan SUV, a Pathfinder. It's about 6 years old. It's pretty
Do you like
reliable,
it?
though. Yeah, it's a very good vehicle, actually.
I I don't know if I've ever been in one of them. I've heard about them. I've never been in one.
What do you drive?
I drive my dad's truck mostly. It's a Toyota Tacoma,
Hmm.
but I just sold I had a Toyota RAV4, like an old one, a 96. So that's what I was
What,
driving.
what year did they come out? It was pretty early, right? Sometime in the 80s, those RAV4s.
I think it was the 96 was the first year because my stepdad bought it from my mom, actually. That's how that car came into our family. It was actually electric that year, 96.
No kidding.
I didn't have the electric one, but that was the year they made an electric one and a gas one.
Did you see
Like,
the Cybertruck announcement?
did I see it? I'm a fanboy for Elon Musk. Yeah, I watched every single thing there is to know about that thing.
Did you put your $100 down?
I did, and my stepdad did too, which was surprising.
Yeah, all of it. I put down my $100 and got in line.
I mean, it's gonna be fucking amazing. Like, it's not gonna be what we saw. It's gonna be 100 times better than what we saw. So it's worth it for that
Well, there are
price.
friends and there are skeptics. And yeah, for $100, I thought, hey, this is pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's refundable too. You can change your mind and just get the money right back out.
Exactly. So it's a
Only
principle.
$100.
Yeah.
That's really interesting marketing. I like that idea. That's how I do my business. Actually, if you want to do $60,000 worth of business with me, just give me $600 and let's see if we can work together. If we can't, then don't give me a down payment of 15 grand. That's the way I do my business.
Yeah.
Just see if you like the way I work. Hire me for 5 hours. If you like it, then hire me for 150 or 200 hours. I think that's fair.
Cool. Aloha, Javinder.
Excuse me.
Hey, Jaswinder, I was just telling Joshua, I just got back from San Jose last night. The flight was late. So I got back home around 12:30 a.m. But my daughter was scheduled to go to California, so we had to get up at 4 a.m. so I could take her to the airport. I got about 2 hours sleep, and I've been spending three out of the last five driving and two sleeping. So I'm not going to be very coherent. So I was mostly going to be in listen mode, hopefully. I mean, I have some topics I've wanted to talk about for weeks, but not sure today is going to be my most cogent preparation.
Okay. I was
How
gonna
have
tell
you
you,
been?
Sam.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Josh, wonder, we were talking before about having like a one-on-one or having some time. So let me know if other people don't show up and it's just me and you, Josh Wonder. I'd be happy to do that now. Or here comes Alex. So we're good. So I just wanted to
Yep.
put that out there, but go ahead, Josh Wonder.
So like I say, mostly I'm going to be in listen mode. Hey, Alex. I am curious, though, your take on the aftermath of the elections. Just wonder, what have you seen?
Well, I
Wonder
think
just
he sorry.
Just wonder just exited.
I couldn't know that was too easy to say. I'm sure he'll be back. I don't know. That was
Yeah. Hey, Alex.
Hello.
So I'm still in bed because I only got about 2 hours sleep last night. So I'm mostly going to be in listen mode.
That's good because we've got a lot of barn raising to do.
Just wonder, glad to see you back. I was hoping that my question didn't put you off. I had just asked whether you'd seen, let's say, unexpected aftermath of the elections from last week. I was just curious.
Josh Wonder. Can you hear Sam? Check one, check two.
Just
Alex,
Windows,
are you hearing me?
he's frozen.
Yeah, I think he's frozen, right? Yeah, that's what I thought.
I haven't got
How are you? Yeah.
I haven't got hosting abilities.
I'm sure Sam could give it to you if you ask him. I'm sure he'd be happy to. Well, I'm not that sure, but I'm kind of sure.
When you hear me repeating myself, it's usually because there was a noise sound artifact in the background as I was speaking. So I repeat myself to make sure they heard the word. So you might hear me say the same word twice quite often. That's when I hear that background noise artifacts like microphone rubbing or whatever.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah, I have to apologize. I think we're all half asleep here. I think that's what's going on.
Well, if
I'm just waking up.
If anyone falls asleep, I'll mention something now, so they know they haven't missed it. And that is this idea that we need a big crowd to get something moving. Now, I've figured out that we need minimum of 6 to get something moving. I mean, Heiner Benken, he thinks it's 5, even as little as 5. But, I think it's 6.
Define that a little more, Alex. To get what moving? You said something. I don't know what the something is exactly. Like if you could be more exact.
A viral.
A viral? You need a virus? I'll give you a virus. I got herpes. You can kiss my face.
I'm not talking about a virus. I'm talking about a global phenomenon.
Parasites too. I got bacteria. You can have all my bacteria, microbiota, viruses.
No. I shouldn't have mentioned viral. I wasn't talking about a virus.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You've got a bacteria website.
I was being a comedian, Alex. I was making a joke. Right? Why do you want to go viral? Why would you want to take something like, what's the point of going viral?
No reason.
To get more, or what?
You're breaking up.
Wonder why people want to have so many people see something. Okay, sorry.
It's a crisis thing. This Swedish girl alerted the whole world. Maybe you didn't see it. I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Greta something, the Swedish activist. But you don't watch TV, do you? You don't watch the news, mainstream media?
Of course I do. My friend, I have two. No, there's two. Do you remember that Heiner was at the conference? I have 3 other friends that were at the conference, at the COP25 conference.
So why would you go there if you don't understand the necessity to get something going viral?
I don't know what you're talking about. Get something go viral. It doesn't make any sense to me. What go viral? I don't know what you mean.
This is a
here. I got to go get some coffee.
Look, this is the GCC, so you should know what context I'm talking about in.
I think we have a miscommunication, Alex. I'm not sure if you can still hear me.
Did you want to communicate?
Yeah, the word viral means that something is spreading like a virus. That's what I didn't understand. Why do you want to spread something like a virus? Why do you want to spread a message far and wide, thousands and thousands of people to see it? What is the message?
No, there's nothing, no message. It won't work anyway.
It's all, like, the message for Greta has already been spread more than a virus. That's already spread globally. It's on the cover of Time magazine. There's nobody that doesn't know who she is or what's going on with her.
Well, why would you ask me if I've got there's some odd, strange, peculiar reason for wanting something to go viral on the internet?
No, that's not my question. My question is, what message do you want to spread?
The message is simple. Add 2 friends to the Plant Trees project. If everyone plants 10 trees a year, we'll get ourselves out of the hole. We won't go over the edge. There's 7 billion people in the world, and if everyone got a smartphone, which is possible in a year or 2 with Elon Musk and Origin and Boeing and NASA and Richard Branson, SpaceX and Boeing. So they've all got rockets going up, and every time they send up a rocket, it punches another hole in the atmosphere.
Uh-huh.
So for every rocket they send up, they have to plant 10,000 trees.
For every rocket they send up, plant 10,000 trees. Okay.
Well, yeah, it's an offsetting the carbon.
Right, carbon offsetting principle.
But that won't save the planet. If 7 billion people planted 10 trees a year each, think about that. Of course, we'll never get 7 billion because half of the world hasn't got a smartphone. We'll get about 4 billion.
Okay.
But it's got to go viral. It won't happen if it doesn't go viral. So I'm focusing on Python, machine language, and artificial intelligence. And marketing, marketing experts with technology skills. The platform needs to be a social network type of platform where people can log in and nominate the region they live in as their node in the tree, their branch of the tree. Welcome back, Jaswinda. Make it a strong coffee so you can stay awake and get excited about the future. New materials technology is giving us smaller electric motors with, you know, just as much power as the bigger electric motors. A third the size, 2/3 the size of the old motors, which is quite a bit smaller. And that's going to allow for electric vehicles of all kinds of descriptions and robotics of all kinds of descriptions in space, in satellites, and deploying shade sails over the North Pole, South Pole, which is why I want the space industry involved. A consortium, a global consortium of private and government space agency, private and national, commercial and corporate and government coming together in a triad to build shade sails. And those shade sails will help us restore the cooling on the North Pole, South Pole, reduce the global warming. It's not going to affect the pollution levels. We have to work more on the ground to bring down CO2 levels and toxic chemicals in the ocean, like mercury, arsenic, toxic stuff in the water, plastics. And lots of kids are working on these problems, I notice. I'm astonished every day I surf the internet and look at some of these solutions. They're really getting into it. So it's the espresso lane. Espresso ground coffee is good for you.
Which one am I going to have?
You have which one you want. I don't know them. I know Abacra beans.
You know this one?
No, haven't seen either.
Yeah, very, very strong. Let's see where it's made in. A very popular brand in New York City. A lot of Dominicans and Puerto Ricans use this brand. It's from Miami. It's a very strong, like a Cuban espresso coffee. And then this is a Arabic espresso, so they're both very strong. So I think I'm gonna mix and match. I was gonna say, did you want to have a conversation? Like, tell me what. Like, Sam's not here. I was trying to ask Josh Winder if he wanted to talk because he had expressed wanting to have a one-on-one. And I'm just trying to figure out what we're doing here. So I was wondering if you could help me out, Alex, because I'm not sure what we're doing here exactly.
I might have to go to bed early.
Okay.
If I don't,
yeah,
or I could get called away. But I just wanted to make it known that we only need 6 people to start a global viral activist web network. 6 people are enough to make it begin, to activate it. Then it will go viral.
Okay, thank you.
You have a suitable meme to go viral?
It's just through person-to-person, word of mouth.
Do you have a suitable meme? You know, if you take a jingle or something, you say like, Brexit, get it done. That's a nice meme. That went viral in the UK.
Yeah, well, it's a meme, and it says "Get paid to plant trees."
Say again.
Get paid get rewarded or a
Okay,
benefit.
so plant trees, get paid.
Yes.
Plant trees, get paid. Plant trees, get paid.
Good one.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
Next question. Where does the money come from
What money?
to pay the people who plant trees?
I don't know. All I know is I can pick up a couple of trees. I think I can pick up a couple of saplings from the nursery for about $10.
The money comes from...
That's not the problem. The problem is, where do I plant the blessed trees?
That's for you. That's your problem. The money comes from advertising.
No, you must not use the word problem. You put people off. You're giving them a problem. From a solution, you come directly to a problem. Not good. Very bad.
All right.
Just rap on the knuckles.
So what's the question? Where do you plant?
I have two saplings.
Where do you plant them?
Spruce.
Okay, here's the answer. Put one in the backyard and one in the front yard.
I don't want one in the backyard. I don't want one in the front yard.
You sneak out at night time and park one in the reserve.
The United Kingdom, this is serious. This is serious. The United Kingdom, every inch of the United Kingdom has been mapped and it's on the plans. So if you cut a tree, somebody will ask you, why did you cut that tree? If you plant a tree, and somebody might come and say, you can't plant that tree there because you're blocking somebody's sunlight or something. Okay? It's a highly built up area. You go down the road, not far, say 6 miles in that direction, northeast, and there are some farms there. Small farms, small holdings. And there's one farm is a pick your own. In other words, when the vegetables and the fruit are ripe, you can take your basket or your bag or whatever, pick all you want and pay for it and bring it home. And I'm reasonably sure they're not going to let me plant a couple of trees anywhere on their farm. There's some wasteland, it's a quarry. This is going from memory. Yeah, that quarry is kind of like steep and you can't plant anything in that. It's been years since I've been in that area. I went to Northcote Park up on Bushbury Hill. That's full of trees already.
I think I'll just cross the United Kingdom off the map.
A lot of people would like to do that. Some people have spent hundreds of years trying to do that.
Just for the tree planting project.
Okay, now India, as far as I'm aware, when this big thing started of planting trees, they've planted close on it at that time in a few days or a month or so. They planted 2 million trees, and I haven't heard anything since then. So India, yeah. But nobody paid them. The saplings were donated, they went out, they planted. How they're doing, I don't know.
Amazon like to advertise. Even Apple and Samsung, they like to advertise. And if you've got 6 people that look at a web page once a week, they'll pay you to put an ad on that page.
Here's another one for you.
That money can be used to pay the people you signed up to plant trees.
Yeah. Here's another one for you, okay? Most developed countries, like the UK, have a horticultural department. Most cities have a horticultural department, a nursery, if you like, where they start the plants off. And when there are road works and new building works and things, and they go out and plant the grass seeds and trees and whatever to make it look pretty. They grow up, obviously. So a long time ago, I did put about on the channel on Facebook, hoping like you to start a meme, was that instead of planting trees or bushes and things, why don't we plant plants that yield fruit or vegetables that people can just pick and take away or put, use it in any way they want to.
Yeah.
They didn't do that either. They're still planting just bushes.
There's a collection of seeds in there, seeds for planting blueberries, apricots, date palms, and cherries, and plums. So that's the little packet of seeds for Christmas. That's a good gift to give away. They can throw them in the bin or they can put them in the garden.
What's the nearest city to you?
I'm in the city. I'm in the city.
How big is it?
I'm in a housing complex. It's
How big is the city?
90,000.
Do they have a horticulture department?
Yep, they've got a big one.
Would you like to talk with them?
Well, I have to get permission. I can't plant any trees out there without planning permission.
No.
They even make you...
I know you weren't listening, so I'll say it again. Ask them that when they go out to prettify the city or the building sites or whatever, instead of planting bushes and trees,
plant fruit.
they plant some plants and fruits.
Yeah, that's one of the givens.
Would you like to go and talk with them?
Trees that produce food producing.
Would you like to go and talk with them?
Yeah, that's one of the things I would like to do, because there's quite a few streets in this town that have got no trees on the centre strip. Naked centre strips that should have trees on them. They've got power poles.
What happened in this city is that since obviously we went into the austerity program, the horticulture department has been privatized. So I can't even talk with them anymore. Okay? So I have to write to the city center, the civic center, and then that department that deals with the horticultural, privatized horticulture department then can relay the message. And that's getting nowhere now. So if you have a good horticulture department still under the city, I suggest you go and talk with them. There are only 2 fruit trees in our city. One is a pear tree, and the other, not far from here, are 2 apple trees, crab apples, that I know of. And I think they germinated kind of accidentally, and they've just been left there where they are.
Yeah, most regions have their issues. I think every region will probably have some issues. It's unlikely for any region to have no issues. So many people have got something to say about somebody else doing something.
Absolutely. There's some derelict land, but it's on site of a grade 2 listed building, not far, about 300-400 yards, quarter of a mile, say. And that has a lot of lawn around it. It was a library and a swimming pool. I dare say I could sneak in there and plant a couple of trees. And I dare say they would disappear just as quickly. Who's going to pay me?
Well, if the people in the nursery give me permission to put some trees in, they'll force me to get public liability insurance.
Yep.
I'm out in public digging a hole.
Yep.
But then I can go ahead and put the trees in and mark them on the map and submit the map locations for the registry and the local website.
This public liability insurance is the biggest swindle in the whole of the world. We can't move without some kind of insurance that we have to pay for.
Yeah.
That's a tax.
They assess the risk involved and they charge you the amount appropriate. So if you're demolishing buildings, you'll pay a lot more than an old dude planting trees.
Absolutely. Can't even put up a tent without liability insurance. Hey, you've written here, not voting isn't rebellion, it's surrender. Now, I seem to remember when people didn't vote, they actually went out and did some action instead and changed the government. So they didn't really surrender. Never mind.
You're thinking of the French, of the guillotines.
I'm thinking of the British as well. The Civil War in England. The Civil War in America.
Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trouble breaking out in lots of South American countries.
You're going off the point. I don't think you realize the point I'm making here. You tend to do that. You don't see the point, or if you see it, you ignore it and you go somewhere else. That meme does not hold true. I'll pull it up again. Not voting isn't rebellion, it is surrender. Now, what about the voting that happened in the UK? The voting was tactical.
It was interfered with by the Russians.
That may be so as well. And it was tactical as well. On the other hand, this accusation of that we are being interfered with, it kind of begs the question, doesn't it? How many governments have we interfered with in the last few hundred years? Including Australian government.
Good.
So that doesn't hold at all. That's to be expected.
Well, Australia just had a vote in the courts with the Mabo case.
You're ignoring the point I'm making. I want you to answer that point. Not voting isn't rebellion, it's surrender. How is it surrender?
Some people do vote, and they're the people who have connections with the 1%, the bankers and the elite. They have organisations, brotherhoods that make sure they get their people out to vote and they get their people into power. We've seen this happening all over the world. And it's happening because it's happening because 50% of the people don't even bother to vote.
And when they vote tactically, is that surrender as well?
That's like firing a shot. You fire a tactical shot or you just shoot it straight up into the air.
So that's surrender as well, is it?
You aim at something, you're more likely.
Surrender?
No, because you're more likely to hit it. If you aim at something, that's a tactic. If you're not aiming at something, you're just firing straight up into the air, and that's a bad tactic.
And what about voting and then killing everybody?
Well, if everybody voted, that'd be tactical. But how do you get everybody voting? I know me going out is just one person voting, right? That's not going to change anything. But I'm one of 7 billion.
I think you're just going to go around in circles and not see what I'm getting at. Not worth talking. Yes, Josh, you had something to say.
I've been trying to signal you to ask, because you had asked me if we wanted to have a one-on-one conversation at some point, but we don't know what time. So since Sam is not available and it's so late at night for Alex, I was wondering if this is a good time for you.
It's a good time for me.
Alex, what do you think? I don't want to be rude, or I want to check in with you and see what you think about that.
It's fine.
Okay. Just getting coffee, and I'll be done in about a minute and 30 seconds. So I can go over to where it's better signal. I don't know if you can hear me okay. I think Alex was tired, and I think I'm exhausted personally. I'm just waking up.
You know, that's one of the biggest mistakes we all make, is we start making excuses for other people. Especially since I pointed out to Alex that he keeps saying
no. I said I think he is tired. I don't know. I'm not.
You're not thinking.
What's that? I'm not thinking.
No. You're just repeating something to be nice.
Do you think he's tired though? That's my question for you. What do you think?
Sounded tired.
You sounded tired to me. You sounded exhausted.
That's not going to stop him from going around in circles. He's never ever going to admit that he has made any kind of slightest error ever.
Oh, yeah, he admitted that I think he admitted that he had a serious brain injury and also other situations going on. So
that's not an error.
I don't know. I've got errors, but how are you? I'm happy that I've been wanting to, like, I don't know if I reached out to you. I think I did text you and say, I know I told you with my voice the other day, we can use a compassionate technology so to schedule a time and a date. So anyway, how are you? I'm just wanting to check in.
I'm good.
Okay, good. I'm a little dizzy at the moment. Salud.
What spiritual experiences have you had?
What spiritual? That's such a weird question, to be honest. Like, I couldn't define it that way. I mean, to me, every moment is a spirit. Like right now, boom, spiritual experience number one. That's the experience I just had. Oh, I just looked at this thing that it's just every moment is a spiritual experience in my world.
You ever sit down with your eyes closed to see what your brain is doing?
What's that?
You ever sit down with your eyes closed just to listen to your brain, your thoughts?
Of course. Yes, I do.
When do you do
that?
I do
that often. What's that?
Every day?
Every day. In the morning, in the afternoon, the evening.
What goes through your mind when you're trying to sleep?
Nothing. I'm just sleeping. What are my dreams about?
Before you get to sleep, you're getting ready. You're putting your jammies on. You get into bed. You're lying down.
Yeah, I don't do that.
What do
You're
you do?
assuming I put my shoes on and I get ready for bed and all that stuff.
What, you sleep
It's
in
different.
your day clothes?
Yeah.
You have a bed?
Mm-hmm.
So what's your bedtime routine?
There is no, see, that's the thing. I'm not like those people that have routines. I'm not one of those people. I can fall into routines, but as quickly as I fall into a routine, I try to switch it up before it becomes too much of a pattern. So it sometimes can go for weeks. I have patterns, or it could just be 3 days patterns. And then the next day is different. So I don't really do that pattern thing. I purposefully don't do that.
You're going
When
to
I'm
be
tired,
you're
what's
going
that?
to be a very difficult subject because you're saying things and then you contradict yourself. If you go for several weeks in one routine,
If I go for 2 months in one routine, that doesn't mean I'm doing that routine now. That could have been back in January.
Could I ask you to go through that routine for argument's sake? Stop that.
I don't remember. And the reason I don't remember is because I don't keep a journal of when I go to bed and what routines I have. I don't keep track of that. When I'm tired, I fucking sleep. When I'm ready to wake up, I wake up.
Where do you sleep?
I don't have routines. If I fall into a routine where every night I'm going to bed at a certain time, it's probably
sleep?
Wait, let me finish. I'm not done. I'm going to explain it to you so you can stop with this line of questioning because it's annoying. I sleep in a bed in a loft in a small, tiny house. I can show it to you right now. I can point.
No. So you, good. We've ascertained you have a bed. That's good.
Jaswinder, am I on trial or are we having a conversation? This is fucking weird, man.
I'm trying to get to know you. And you
just
want
ask, be direct with me. Don't do the walkabout. I'm a smart person. You're a smart person. If you try to start a line of questioning with me, like a lawyer, it's not going to work. Just talk to me like a human being. Just ask me exactly what you want to know, and I'll tell you exactly.
I did ask you.
What do you want to know about my spiritual experiences? Just be straight up about this.
I want to know if you listen to yourself.
Yes, I said yes. That was the answer.
How do you listen to yourself?
I'll show you.
Go ahead.
I listen to the somatic parts of my body, and I have a little pain in the right side of my neck that's pretty painful at the moment, and I really would like to have a gentle, wonderful Joshua conversation at this moment. Oh, I just clicked that little part in my neck that was stiff. That's how I listen to myself. I listen to my body, and I will go over and meditate about what happened during my dream state. I did a little bit of that 20 minutes before I got in this call with Sam. When I woke up this morning, I just meditated for a while. I had my eyes open, and then I closed them for a little bit, but I kept them open, and I went through. I have a wooden ceiling, so I'm not staring at too much messiness, just a wood grain pattern, and I just listen. I listen to the timing of the thoughts, how they come in and out, the patterns of the dream state. Like, wait, what was that about? And then I go back through the narrative that my subconscious brain creates during my dreams. And yeah, sometimes I separate the stuff that I believe is coming from my inner and coming from the outer, because I believe sometimes things in the collective consciousness come into the dream state. So it's important if there's messages in there to listen. Does that help to make sense to how my brain works? I think that's what you're trying to figure out is like, how am I in my body and how am I in my spirit? Because
what happens when you wake up?
What happened? I can tell you what happened today. I could tell you probably few different days, but it's different every day. Some days I'm just right in the moment, like snapped awake, like, oh, gotta get to this and do that. And some days I don't set an alarm clock. That's what's interesting is I wake up when the sun and the, when it's time to wake up, or if somebody wakes me up.
You have a bath?
I don't.
Shower?
No.
Okay.
We don't have enough water up here to be taking showers every day.
Okay.
I could, but I just choose to use it for other things.
And when do you collect your thoughts as to what needs doing or wants doing or what you should be doing for the day? Anything like that? Or the conversations from yesterday, when does all that start happening with you?
I'm actually doing it right now, multitasking, doing that in the back of my brain while I'm talking to you.
So you are aware of that?
What's that?
So you are aware that you're having two separate conversations?
I couldn't tell if you said you are aware or you aren't aware. Because you were eating chips or something, you're eating. So your enunciation of the word are or aren't was a little bit confusing.
It's very difficult for people to be aware of two separate conversations going on at the same time. If you've got two separate conversations, one is internal and the other is external, that's kind of like four conversations. For you to be doing that, that's very good, very high up. The only thing I can see that's slightly lacking is the development of your memory, which may or may not be necessary.
Actually, it's exquisite. I love you, Jocelyn. I've known you for a while, and I know what you're doing. So, like, you can just cut the crap with me.
What? You know the state you're in when you're just about falling asleep? Do you know what state you're in?
Are you asking me about alpha, beta, theta, and delta waves? Like, just get to the point, man. Cut the crap. Don't ask, do you know what state you're in when you're just falling asleep? Just talk to me straight up, man.
I am talking to you straight up. Do you know what state you're in?
You know what state you're in when you're just about falling asleep.
I'm in the state where I'm disconnecting from my body. Sometimes I float. Sometimes I don't.
Are you? So you're in a state of, yeah. I don't go out of my body. I try to stay in my body consciously.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you have that dream of falling?
No, I don't.
Good.
I feel like I'm on the couch and you're like a psychologist trying to psychoanalyze me. That's why I'm kind of pissed off. You're sort of pushing my anger button. But if that makes you happy, I'll go there. I'll play that game with you if you want to play that game. But if you want to just talk to me directly, I would appreciate it. I think I've said that 4 times now.
I know you keep saying it, but I ask you a question. You give me a
question. Do you mind? Do you mind if I ask you a question, Jocelyn?
Go ahead.
Your line of questioning, is it to get to a point? Or are you just bored and playing with me? Or what's your intention? That's my question. What is your intention at this moment?
Okay, I'll give it to you straight. There are about 6 stages of spirituality. There could be 8. You could divide them into 10. Some divide them into 7.
I've heard about this. These are planes of exist. There's a guru that talks about this called the planes of consciousness.
Yeah.
The 6 planes. Yes, I'm
Yeah.
aware of this line of thinking.
It's not a line of thinking.
No, it's a reality of the spiritual world. It's the rules of the spiritual world.
It's levels of existence.
Correct. I was taught that when I was a child.
So, in my estimation, people who really want to go higher up the levels of spirituality and become spiritual beings, if they're not born that way already, if they're not following if they haven't become disciples to some super spiritual person, then they have to be working at it consciously. Self-development. And then one of the things is to realize, well, or ask, well, where am I? What stage or what level of development am I at? What can I see? What reality is manifesting for me? What things are happening for me or not happening for me? And what would I like to happen for me or not happen for me? What are the common experiences of the people who have set down this path? Some are born that way. Some become disciples and learn. Some have a development later on in life or sometime in life.
Yep.
And at whatever point they're at, they still have to learn. We still have to acquire the tools. Otherwise, we don't go forward. You know, if you take even the very high flyers, they had to learn. They didn't know everything. They're born, they have to learn a language, they have to learn what's going on, have to learn what level is the general average or the mean average of society at around me. How do they talk? What do they mean by the memes and the idioms they use to talk? How can I interact with them? Is this interaction going to be effective? Is it going to be accepted?
Mm-hmm.
All of that they have to take on board before they can move forward. Or they can say, well, I just want to be alone and I want to go and do it on my own or with a group of people who are just like me, go and live in the hills or the mountains or wherever, away from everybody else. Can't be bothered with that. It's too much trouble and pain listening to the same rhetoric every few minutes. Never mind every day.
Yep.
And some of them develop very, very peculiar habits. So I was thinking about you, whether you would be interested into going into a seance. Learn to go into a seance all by yourself.
Well, all you have to do is ask me if I've done that before.
Have you?
I have.
Go ahead, put me into a seance.
I'm not going to do that for you right now, but if you'd like me at some point, we wouldn't do it here on this call. I'd do it with you in person, but yeah, if you'd like that, I can do that for you.
Well, I was rather hoping we'd do it here online. Why not?
Well, I can tell you, there's actually, it's not the proper spiritual way to do it.
It's the first time it would ever have been done if we do it now. If you've got the dialogue, the script, go ahead, use it.
Well,
I'm listening.
Let me share with you something that I've learned, and this is just my own experience. And the word that I use that you're describing about these people, they're called aspirants. And what they're aspiring to, the aspirant is aspiring to become one with the divine, which is the everything, because there's both everything and nothing. And the everything is this dimensional plane of being human, and the nothing is the spiritual plane where everything is open for creation. And you can vibrate your frequency of the energy that is your soul, the drop soul from the one Atma soul of God itself, of the everything soul. And you can separate that and vibrate like a little thread and vibrate actual physical matter, and thus create this experience of being in a body and being in this dimension. So when you're in this body and in this dimension, there are certain rules that exist in the spiritual plane. And those rules, as I know them, as I understand them from my experience, is there's timing to when a soul is ready to do something. And if your soul is ready to have a seance on Zoom, then you have to ask my soul, is my soul ready to vibrate at that frequency with your soul? And I can tell you at this moment, no, I'm not in that place to do that today. I don't want to do that today. That doesn't feel right to my soul. That's not the vibrational frequency I want to go in, especially after the conversation with Alex and the fact that this is recorded and we're here with Sam on his barn raising call. This is not the sacred time to do that. In my personal feelings, I don't feel this is the time. It doesn't feel right. If it felt right, great, I would do it, but it doesn't feel right.
You were going to show me something.
No, I wasn't. I was going to show you how I think, and I did that already. I already showed you. I closed my eyes and I went there.
That's not showing, that's telling.
Yeah. What would you like? What do you need? What does your soul need right now, Jaswinder? That's why I'm here wanting to have a one-on-one with you, is to share what your soul needs and to listen, because I'm sure you have a lot of wisdom to share with my soul. So we can both, I believe we're both aspirants. I think we're both trying to get back to that one place of God. I know that I took a vow to be a bodhisattva and stay on this planet and help the souls here first. And I made a decision in this lifetime to not try to reach that 6th, 7th plane in this lifetime. But that's not up to me. That's up to the spirit world. I can just do my best in this world. And if there are other souls that want to come to me and vibrate my consciousness to a different level, when the timing's right, I'll be open to that. And I'm aware that that happens sometimes. And when it does, if I'm in that space, then that's what will happen. It's not really my decision. It is my decision to be accepting of that and to go there, but that happens when it happens. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that in your lifetime. You've had people come to you and vibrate your frequency to a place where you went, whoa, now I experience this existence differently. And I see, feel, taste, smell, touch, and hear things very different because I have just had my frequency changed and I can see things that I couldn't see before. And that's a beautiful thing when that happens.
I was very aware of the changes going on inside me. I withdrew from society. Then I came back in because I had young children. And I was aware of the 5 external senses that we're all aware of. And the 6th sense was coming online. That's going back a long time. So I'm really not quite sure whether you can actually take me anywhere, any higher than I already am.
I hear you.
And I was looking for the shortcuts to the spirituality levels and the meanings of the various phrases and words that are bandied about. Like we keep talking about the soul. And then we mentioned the spirit. What is the soul and what is the spirit? Why this differentiation? We use slightly different words to mean different things, and yet sometimes we use the different words to mean the same thing, causing more confusion. So I wanted to differentiate all of that, and I went into it into great depth to see which methods were being employed by whom and how effective they were. And especially what was it or is in the history books and in the prayer books, and how effective is it, or has it been changed? And is it cross-transferable, which it is. And it's astoundingly simple. And then obviously, if it's astoundingly simple, why is it complicated? Why are people who are actually practicing the practice not more liberal with it? And the answer was and is morality. Up until recently, we couldn't be sure of anybody's morality. It hasn't been long since state education started. State education worldwide started after World War II. Countries came on at different times. So it could be said that morality, with or without spirituality, is pretty much similar the world over. But the development of the mind and the thinking patterns are different, obviously. So are the cultures. And although we use the same prayer methods, we pray to different deities, maybe praying differently, but the methodology is pretty much the same. The morality now is pretty much the same. And that, aligned with social media and the ability for us to talk with almost anybody, anywhere about almost anything, is bringing more and more people forward. And they're becoming more aware and more spiritual. There's that young man from Singapore who does that mind map thing. He's advertising quite happily. He started in California. About 10 years ago, he immigrated back to where he came from, Malaysia. But he's still
Who are you referring to? I'm sorry.
Mind Valley.
Huh, I've never heard of this. Or I don't think I have.
Vision somebody or other. He's advertising quite heavily. Sponsored adverts on Facebook. If I come across his link, I'll send you the link. But he charges, and he's highly geared towards what I would call commercial spiritualism from the low level. I don't know how high up he goes. And I wanted to go really high, and I would have loved to have other people show me what they're practicing and see if it's the practice that's been given to me. Now that's the thing that I haven't been able to break loose. Islam has a practice at the very high level that they don't tell anybody. For you to get to that practice, you have to become a Muslim, an Islamist, and go through all the low-level stuff and prove to them that your morality is the same as their morality. The Christians do the same. The Buddhists do the same. The Sikhs do the same. You have to go in there and sit with them and practice whatever they're practicing, right from the low-level stuff, even if you've done it before. Whether they know the high level stuff or not, they're not going to tell you till later. And it turns out they don't know. The majority of the people practicing religions do not know the high level meditation practices. The one that, well, the people who sit in the jungles or the mountains, and they were doing it. And somebody decided, well, no, that's not good enough. It should be in everyday life, in everyday circumstance, and it should benefit everybody. After a while, it kind of drops off. That's about 300-400 years. And it changes. Christianity changed at about 400 years when it's joined with the Roman Empire. Sikhi, well, the British have definitely changed Sikhi. Sikhi is no longer practicing what it ought to be practicing. But
what year was the Sikhi religion started? I'm trying to remember. Do you mind if I ask you that question?
Well,
I'm trying to remember the year. I was watching a documentary about the Golden Temple, and I forgot the name of the book that Sikhism, that the religion was started on. There was a book that's sitting in the Golden Temple, I believe. Am I correct?
The Guru Granth Sahib.
What was the year that they put that book in the Golden Temple? When was that temple created? What year was that? I'm trying to remember.
It was created about 350 years ago, 400 years ago.
And so it was while the British were occupying India?
The British came from the East India and worked their way towards the West. And Sikhi started in Northwest. The Sikhs and the British clashed about the 1750s onwards. 1857, the British defeated the Sikhs.
So they disrupted that flow of energy, it sounds like.
Sounds like?
Well, you just said that the British disrupted the Sikhs, so it sounds to me that they had quite a nice thing going before the British came in and screwed it all up.
The Sikhs came about because of the amount of disturbance, and they came about to help everybody, and they still do.
Mm-hmm.
The Sikhs themselves are not achieving the high level of spirituality that they did even as little as 300 or 200 years ago. But certainly since 1857 onwards, the British have downtrodden the Sikh practices and changed their working system so it doesn't happen that much anymore. It's a great pity.
That is a great pity. That's
But that sort of thing happened. Say again?
I just sent you a bunch of pictures of the ceiling of different temples in Iran for the Muslim religion.
Yeah.
But the reason I sent it to you is because, to me, from my experiences in the spiritual world, it's as close to what I see when I'm in the spiritual world. It's very close. The different artwork of these ceilings of, if you go to your messenger. But I found, at least traveling the world, you know, from going to Egypt and India, those are the two places I've been to that were Muslim. In India, it was very confusing because there's just so many different, you know, Muslim sects, Hindu sects, and then all sorts of different practices. Everything from the Tibetan Buddhists up in the north of India that migrated from Tibet that are hanging out there, and they're clashing with the Hindus. I had a very interesting 6 to 8 weeks up in the Himalayan mountains watching the Hindus fight the Tibetans, and I was just blown away at, you know, here's these monks that are supposed to be so peaceful, and their children are throwing rocks at the Hindus. I was like, why are you killing those people? Like, I thought you were spiritual. And I couldn't believe how unspiritual and violent and just not, it was just amazing to me at the time. And yeah, but at the same time, there was some amazing spiritual experience of just walking by a temple and hearing 30 to 40 monks chanting in unison. The sound vibration, it sounded like a beehive of humans. To this day, I've never experienced that sound of 30 to 40 monks chanting at once, just and then the harmony of 30 to 40 people harmonizing. That was quite an interesting sound. The only time I've ever come close to hearing that type of sound was in the Amazon rainforest in Peru, where all of the little bugs at night were just playing a symphony. And that symphony, if you just sit and listen to it, there was a lot of harmonies between different bug species that were chanting with their cricket legs and such. So
it's even better
yes,
when you when you are in a group and you do it collectively.
Mm-hmm.
So you build up
very
the whole.
Powerful. Yeah, have you been to those places where they chant Nam Renge Keiho? Have you ever been to a group collective chant of that mantra?
I've done the Vaheguru, I've done Maranatha, I've done Allahu, I've done the A-E-I-O-U, and I've done the freestyle. Yeah, and I've done the silence. So, and I do the in-breath one now, which is with, or I try to do the in-breath, and that's the most difficult. And so most of the higher ones do the in-breath. And
I've never heard of in-breath. Can you maybe enlighten me and tell me what that's consisting of, the in-breath?
When you make a sound, when your breath is going into the lungs, and make a sound as it comes out. Breathe in the light and breathe out the darkness.
Nice.
I've been practicing that for.
How do you make a sound coming in? I've never tried that. I don't think I've ever tried that.
Haven't.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
got it. Oh, that's cool. I like that. I actually, you know, it's funny that I do that, but I do that with an instrument, a little miniature harmonica.
Exactly. Music is one of those things that you practice breathing and singing intermittently. But this is singing all the time with your voice and vibration. You can vibrate your neck, and you know your stiffness in the neck, you can vibrate it out with this kind of vibration. So the one I was practicing, the Vaheguru, so that was Guru, 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 Guru. First 10 years, I practiced that solidly every day, most every breath. Starting off was very difficult, as you say. I've never done that. As a child, I prattled about with it without knowing anything about it, just making noises. But doing it every day with every breath was a different experience. From that, I advanced on to the silent one. The silent meditation with a mantra is to go to that place inside you, inside your mind-brain combination, where thought arises. And that is to suppress that thought, any thought, and replace it with the mantra. That becomes your homeostasis thought.
Mm-hmm. The baseline thought, right?
And that is one of the most wonderful things ever, so that you can be in equilibrium in less than one breath, just by saying that particular mantra, which is different to the Vaheguru mantra, very similar but different. So, allied to that is just letting go of everything, really.
Mm.
So the one is to be awake and doing things, and the meditation at the same time, and the other is to be in the sleep state while you're awake, to decrease the amount of sleep needed.
My friend does that.
Sorry?
Yeah. Oh, I was just sharing, my friend, he does that practice that you're talking about, is to almost be asleep while he's awake. And then he does really quick, deep 30 to 40 minute transcendental meditations and sleeps very rarely.
Yeah. And that is the transcendental is the deep stuff, to go where you live inside you, where all your memory is, if you can get that far down, and even further, go way back to creation. And to go into that trance-like state is obviously very difficult. And again, it takes years of practice. So if you haven't even done it at least once, or you haven't even read the script or have a script that might take you there, you're still a long way off. You need a fairly good memory as well to remember all this, obviously. All yours, your turn.
No, I can tell you, Joswinder, I'm so grateful for you sharing these practices, because I never thought about making a noise when I was breathing in with my vocal cords, just because it was such a strange noise that I just heard come out of your mouth. That noise, I never thought of vibrating my vocal cords that way backwards, just because it doesn't feel natural. I haven't practiced like you have. But I did figure out in, I think, what was it, 16 years ago, to use a very miniature, I was gifted a small mini harmonica, and I put it in my mouth, and I did what I call a Tai Chi harmonica. So I do my Tai Chi, and I wanted to show people the breathing technique of the Tai Chi on stage, so they could see I'm not just moving my arms, I'm moving my breath along with the movements of my arms. So by using a miniature harmonica, when I breathe in, they could hear it, and when I breathe out, they could hear it. So that was a practice I did for many years, of showing people the breath with sound. So thank you for sharing that, because I just did that naturally. I didn't even think of trying to make my vocal cords vibrate on the in, when the harmonica does such a beautiful job. That's why I love that instrument, is you can vibrate on the in breath and the out breath. Whereas those reed instruments, you can only on the out breath, not on the in breath. So, yeah. Really cool. I also wanted to share with you, Joswinder, I have a practice that I've been doing since I was 10 years old. And it's a community practice we call a cipher. And it's a lot like the Kirtan chants of call and response. And we do it with the hip hop culture. And instead of calling one word and then they repeat that word back, we call out something from our soul, and then we pass it to the other individual, and then they call something from their soul, and we go into a circle that vibrates and spirals upwards. Hopefully the aspirant, I hope that it spirals upwards. Sometimes it devolves and spirals downwards, but either way, by passing the voice to the person to the right of you or to the left of you and creating a circle, and then that person passes it and that person passes the voice, and you're doing it with melody, sometimes with melody, but either way with rhythmic tone. That is, to me, the highest value in the hip hop culture. We have a culture of peace, love, unity, having fun, and it's almost like a nation, or a how can I say, it's not quite a religion, but it's definitely a culture that spans the globe across all different languages. It's a new way of communicating to each other through the hip hop methodology. So, I don't know if you've ever seen that, Josh Winter. Have you experienced that before? People on the, like kids on the corner, and one kid's going asabadi do bidi bidi abadi do bidi dee do do do, and then the next person's going bada dee da da dee da 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 da, and the next person's keeping it going, and then before you know it, it's bada 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 bum bada 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 bum, and then it just keeps flowing and spiraling, and everyone's energy is lifting, and it's almost like going to church. It's pretty beautiful. Definitely a new take on an old ancient art form of sitting around the fire. Mm-hmm. So my friends are trying to get a hold of me this Saturday morning, and I told them I was speaking to you, and my friend Cusella says to say hi to Josh Winder. Say hello to Josh Winder, she said. So Cusella says hello.
Hello.
I'll send her this video and make her watch it back to this point where you said hello. Yeah. Well, I think it's beautiful, Josh Winder. Are you in a community that's practicing different techniques, or are you doing it by yourself? Where are you at in your aspiring spiritual practices of being a human being here on this earth?
Trying to join with the light.
Beautiful.
The light that Jesus talks about. The light that Nanak, Buddha, all the big ones talk about that particular light.
Is that the Christ consciousness light? Is that
There's only the one light. Very peculiar.
Yeah, you only feel one light. I feel different lights of that light. There's only one.
When you see that particular light, you will know it, because it will be different from all the light you've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a certain experience I had in my 20s that have served me very well. It's a feeling in your third eye, of opening up your third eye and opening your heart chakra at the same time. And they almost vibrate with each other, where your third eye is open, you're in the past, the present, and the future all at the same time. And then that loving energy from your heart is opening too, and they almost help each other along. meaning the more your heart opens, the more your third eye opens, the more your third eye opens, the more your heart opens, and it just can cycle in that flow, and keeping the root completely rooted. And for me, I have different blocks in other chakras. So those parts of my body are blocked. But when those parts are not blocked, that's when I experience what you were talking about of just not being in my body, floating, which is a beautiful feeling. Well, how does it feel? I'm very curious to ask you, how does it feel holding your grandchild, the newest born child? How is that soul? How does it feel holding that soul? What is the vibration of this new energy coming on this planet?
Try this one. When you finish rolling your cigarette, we'll try one with the eyes ever so slightly open. When you're ready, is to sit as comfortably as possible wherever you are, so you haven't got any muscles or any discomfort. Just relax and take a couple of or more normal breaths.
Yeah, my body, this morning, Jaswinder, it's very cold up here, and my body is just so stiff. I don't think I need to do some exercise before I can do meditation.
No, we're not going to do meditation. We're just going to breathe a little and close our eyes very gently, and then open them a little, just like a slit, less than 2/10 of an inch, and keep them steady. Keep the eyelids steady, and just breathe. Look through the eyelids, and as you're looking through the eyelids, keep the eyelids where they are. Lift your eyeballs up slowly, a little bit.
Yeah, I can't do that one at the moment because I have to change my contact lenses.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one though. I like that. I could see where I'm supposed to be. My eyelid is supposed to be steady and it keeps fluctuating. It's because my old contacts are dry. And
more practice.
I'm going to practice that one though. That's very beautiful. I like that. Yeah, if I didn't have the old contacts, that's what I like that. So, Jaswinder, what's yeah, it sounds like to me, I feel like every soul just gets there when it gets there, and it's just beautiful. Like there's like this beautiful thing where there's all these spiritual beings that are on different consciousness planes watching all the other spiritual beings trying to reach their different aspirant planes. And it's almost like a light flickers, I would imagine. This is my analogy. I'm not a high level spiritual person, but in the corner of my high level spiritual person's eye, I see a flicker of a light, like a candle in the side. And I'm assuming, or I'm guessing, that a higher level spiritual person can see that flickering of the candle in the corner, and they know when to come over and to breathe more of their spiritual oxygen into that candle flame to make it brighter. Or when to just go
the candle meditation. The candle meditation is different.
No. I'm using a metaphor. It's not an actual candle. I'm saying the metaphor of if you're a very high level spiritual aspirant.
The candle meditation starts off with you going deep into a trance, or as deep as you can go. And you have to disconnect your mind from the body so that you cannot move. You have to be able to do that. Go into the trance to disconnect your mind from the body. And the next thing after you've done that and you're sure that you can't move is to look for the candle. In other words, you're going to look about a foot, foot and a half, and about 15 degrees up in front. You're going to look to see if you can visualize candle, lit candle with the flame burning. That is the candle meditation. If you can see that candle burning, then something wonderful could happen.
I apologize, Jaswinder. I was actually talking about a metaphor, but that's beautiful.
Everything that is a metaphor, everything that is a fiction, every little iota of information that we talk about has a basis. This is one of the biggest mistakes we all make, that we buy into the illusion of it being an illusion. It wasn't always, it's not based on illusion, it's based on some sort of reality.
Correct. Do you mind if I recommunicate? Do you mind if I try again? Because I had something I wanted to ask you and I was trying to say and I didn't eloquently explain what I was saying. I used that candle thing and I got confused. Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
At your level of aspirant to reach that light, do you feel, I took a vow when I was younger called a bodhisattva vow to help all the other souls reach that place. I'm curious to ask you, do you feel that it's part of your path to help other people reach the oneness with the light? Is that something, and if so, or well, let me ask you that question first. Do you feel that that's part of your spiritual path?
What else is there to do at this stage?
I don't know. I agree.
Having done everything else, the only thing you can do now is hopefully put others on the same path, awaken their awakeness, bring them to the light, and then they can take more people to the light.
So my question is, when you see other people's, I'm trying to not use the word, at least for me, I can feel the energy of the person that is aspiring to move closer to the light, as opposed to like a moth to a flame, as opposed to a moth going into the forest, into the darkness. I can see when a soul is moving towards that place. And to me, by engaging with, let's just use the metaphor of a moth, engaging with that moth, I learn more and they learn more, and we both go towards the light together if we can travel that path. So my question is, how do you use discernment to know when to talk to a soul that is aspiring to move towards the light? And have you experienced times where it looked like they were aspiring to move towards the light, but really they were just some trickster soul or coyote soul that was tricking you? Like, what's your experience helping people to be aspirants towards the divine light? That's my question.
Well, we're all children on the playground.
Yeah.
Those who gravitate towards where they want to be going, they will show themselves. You have shown yourself. Took you quite a while, but you have, and you're working towards it. You're not quite sure how to go about it, but you're still doing it. And as you pick up the practices, you You will practice what you like, or what you think you like, or what you've been given to like. And when you're tired of that one, you'll pick up another practice. They're all floating around, these practices. They're in front of you, but you won't see one till you were looking for one. You didn't see me till you were actually looking. You made that statement last week on Sunday. Yeah. And I responded. And that's how it will go on, is to ask the questions. When I was looking for a bona fide light emitting guru, I went out into the world. I took a drive from here all the way to the other side of Turkey. And I talked to lots of people. At first, I went around this city and talked to all the preachers, the high preachers in this city. And they would, it's kind of like having a champion. Everybody knew somebody who knew something. And then sooner or later, that becomes very tiresome because nobody wants to admit to not knowing, but they know somebody who does. Who knows somebody who does? Who knows somebody who does?
That's how I ended up in the Himalayan mountains in India.
My sister-in-law brought a magazine, Sante, S-A-N-T-E. It's quite a sort of upper middle class magazine. And I thumbed through that. Now, when I got to the classifieds at the back, there was an advert for one or two people and the Mind, Body, Soul seminar in Manchester. So I sort of was a little perturbed, and I rang them up and they sent me their pamphlet and their programs. There were people doing meditation, people doing crystal healing, magnetic healing, Indian head massage, dancing, Reiki, all sorts of things. You name it, it was there.
That's the New Age movement. That's born here in California. I'm sorry that we created that.
There was the famous British footballer who went off into the spiritual world. He was there. There was a man not far from here who's in California now. I can't remember his name. I'll send these details to you as they come back to me. I walked through that hall where everybody had their little stands. And wherever I felt something, I stood at that stand and talked with those people. And one of them was this Reiki fellow, Jason Chan from Japan, who said to me after a half-hour talk is to book a session at his one-day session to go through what he has to say and take it from there. And another woman from Yorkshire, little town in Yorkshire called Hyley, or was it Kylie? Hyley, she invited me for a seance, a deep recession up in Yorkshire, for which she charged £35 for a 2-hour session, even in the early 90s. I thought that was good value for money. And there was a third person that I went to who was going to also give me a reading by putting his hands on my hands. But as soon as he put his hands on my hands, it seemed to me he withdrew, kind of like he had an electric shock. And he said, I can't read you. You're too much for me. And that's all he said. He pressed the buzzer and he said to his secretary, give this gentleman his money back. It wasn't a lot, but he gave it back to me anyway. And that was kind of perturbing to me, that I felt rejected. And that was only the third kind of contact. But none of them was able to do what Jesus and some of the others could do. And that's what I was looking for, and I couldn't find it. So I had to go out of the country. And eventually I found one not far from where my mum was born and raised, in the outskirts of the city of Jalandhar. But I had to ask, everywhere I went, I had to ask the Golden Temple and all the temples around there, Delhi, all the gurdwaras in Delhi, wherever I went, Agra. And some people would keep me, they would talk to me for hours, 2 or 3 hours, and they knew nothing, but they just loved to talk. And then when I found this particular person early one morning, because I was living in a compound, an ashram, albeit a pseudo-Sikh one, and this ex-serviceman saw me walking towards the breakfast hall, and he called me over and said, "Come over here. You have a lot of questions. Here's the man with all the answers." And I thought, okay, one more won't hurt. So early in the morning, sun was just dawning. We sat under a pipal tree, kind of like the one Buddha used to sit under, only much smaller. And we chatted. And then we got to the subject of the divine light in the conversation. And then I said, yeah, well, a lot of people have talked about the divine light, and some people even went around saying things like, "Show me the one who can show me my light." And he said, and the man who said that used to show his light. And I said, right, show me. And he did. Now, that was the second time in a short period, in about 20 years, that I had an experience that was mind-blowingly, how would I say that, shattering all illusions as to what spirituality is. Okay, the genuine item. And I asked him where he got it from, and he said, "I got it from those in the jungle." And I said, "Are they still there?" He said, "I don't know, they probably are." But he was working in a village not far from the main city, and he was doing excursions all around that area. He still is. And if you want him to show you how to do those things, you have to go and see him, and you have to ask him, because he won't tell you.
Yeah.
Because he's sick and he's just fed up to his back teeth with all the fools who come to him and say, "I want to be a Brahm Jnani, a God's disciple." Brahm is God, and Jnani is the learning of God. And then they don't do it. Most of that learning, the very high level learning, is in silence and the practicing of silence. Now, when I was reading religion for the sake of information, I found snippets of information on how the universe, the cosmos, started. And they all come to the same sort of starting point. In the beginning, there was nothing. So the Big Bang can't happen till we get from the nothing and build up sufficient pressure for the first little Big Bang and build those up to the big, massive Big Bang that we're talking about. And that can only come from the knowledge that's within. And that knowledge is mind-blowingly good. And even if I explained it to you, I'm more than reasonably sure you wouldn't understand. But you're going to say, that's not possible. You can't get something out of nothing. But that's exactly what happened. And that nothing is still here with us today. And if it wasn't, we couldn't exist. And that is the place where nirvana lives, where there is nothing, not even a thought.
Yep.
That's where I want to go.
Have you come across the writings of Meher Baba when you were in India?
No.
He's a person who was kissed on the forehead by a high enlightened master named Babajan, a lady in Pune. And she would sit and meditate. I think she was in her 90s when she kissed, the guy's name was Merwan. And she kissed him on the forehead and opened up his light. And he became a conscious, enlightened being walking this planet. And he took a vow of silence and washed lepers for most of his life.
Yeah.
And he wrote with an alphabet board and had it translated. He would point to the letters, and his disciples would write down what he was pointing to. And he wrote some really interesting works of literature. One is called The Everything and the Nothing, which is a really wonderful short little book, but it's one of my favorite books. It's very similar to the poems of Rumi, I've found. He is steeped in the ways of the Sufis. And yeah, I would definitely recommend the book, The Discourses by Meher Baba, The Everything and the Nothing, and there's another book called God Speaks. They're wonderful pieces of literature he left behind. And the stories I've heard from people that have met him were exactly what you were talking about, is they just felt the divine light coming from him, and some of them passed out. They couldn't handle the light. It was too bright. And they woke up hours later, like in a blissful state, going, what just happened? Where am I? It was very interesting.
Well, I can't promise I will, but I have jotted them down.
Yeah, it's there if you feel that that's something you need. But I also feel like, in my experience, at least I had a friend that's not a spiritually enlightened master, but she's also a really good soul. And she helped teach me about design and about understanding the Japanese culture. She worked a lot with bamboo. And she said to me, she also was a practicer of Qigong and Tai Chi, like I do. And she said, if you ever meet someone that claims to be a master, if they charge you money, just move on, because that's not it.
Well,
that's what she said to me.
A lot of people don't charge money, but they open up shops and they sit in their shops and they wait for you to come and sit down and give them your problem and obviously a small offering. So there are a lot of people doing that. But
yeah, there are.
That doesn't necessarily mean they have anything, or they have something. There are people like that in this city.
Yeah, there was some wisdom that I got from the Tao Te Ching. And one of the things it said in the Tao Te Ching was, if you stay in one place long enough, the whole world will come to you. So I practiced that for 7 years at a little place in Santa Barbara, California. And I found it to be very true, that if I stayed in the same place long enough, people would just show up out of nowhere. It was amazing.
Yep. All the world is in the UK now. There are 54 languages in just this small 2 mile, less than 2 mile, 1 mile area.
Yeah.
A small town on the edge of a big city. 54 languages in the school. Mom.
Beautiful.
They don't think so. This is what Brexit is all about. Get them out.
Well, some people. Yeah, those are the British people, but they have a history of being assholes.
It's not just the British people, it's all the white Anglo-Saxon Protestant people all over Europe, Canada, USA, Australia, New Zealand.
Those people annoy me.
Whether they annoy you or not, they're putting people like Trump into power. Boris in the UK.
They're not going to last.
Macron.
Where's
Macron?
Lasting in America.
Macron, he's in France. And we've also got Modi in India. That's another one. The Indians are doing well.
Growing up in America has been very interesting because I grew up in a little town called Cambridge, Massachusetts. Are you familiar with that town?
No.
It's the town where Harvard University is and MIT.
Yeah.
And it's right next to Boston.
Right.
And the town, it has quite a bit of history in America. There's, the American Revolution was started in that town. That's where the Boston Tea Party is.
Uh-huh.
And so the harbor.
I've got the picture on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's on the East Coast in Massachusetts, and it's a very steeped in American history because the Revolutionary War was started there. That's where Paul Revere did his ride across Massachusetts, and then Israel Bissell finished the ride to New York. And what's really interesting about growing up in that town is the history of the universities and of that, those white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, that's their center of power, is in Boston. Before they moved the power center to Washington, D.C., it was all in Boston. And that's a huge, steeped, like they call them the daughter. There's actually I lived right next to a forest called the DAR forest, the Daughters of the American Revolution. And there's still to this day a group of people that call themselves the founding family lineage of the original Plymouth. That's where Plymouth Rock is in Massachusetts. As a child, I had to go there on a field trip to see where the original settlers that came, the Protestants that didn't want to be in England anymore, and they formed this little colony in Massachusetts. And growing up in that center of that history, and then branching out at age 17 to California, I took a bus just because I wanted to see America. I jumped on a bus when I was 17 and traveled in a bus from Massachusetts all the way to California. And we stopped in every major city along the way, from, Ohio to Indiana. It was fascinating to see all the different people in America get on the bus and get off the bus. And I decided to interview them. I took a little microphone and I pretended I was a reporter for Time magazine. And I said, "Hi, my name is Joshua. I'm a roving reporter with Time magazine. Tell me what your experience is. Where are you going and where are you coming from?" And I interviewed all these people just because I was bored. And it was fascinating to listen to the different people in America. America is a really confused place. It's like barely even, it's such a baby compared to England or compared to places in Europe. These people, they don't even know the history of America, let alone the history of the world. They're just, Americans are fascinating. I don't know how much time you've spent in America, Jaswinder, but it's a fascinating place.
I haven't spent any time in America.
If you came to California, you would see there's a town that I went to when I was 17 called Ojai.
Right.
And Ojai is in the ancient culture, the ancient Native Americans in the probably the 12th century. they would want to meet from Canada all the way down to South America to Peru. The different tribes would come to a spot in California called the Ojai Valley. And it's a spot where the mountains run from east to west, not north to south. So everyone could find this little valley. It's Ojai means crescent moon. So it's a crescent moon valley.
Right.
And they would get there and they would have these meetings with the tribe called the Chumash tribe. And they were the money keepers of the entire empire from Vancouver all the way down to Peru. There's a very interesting history in that valley. And because of that energy of that valley and that culture for like over 1,000 years, spiritual people from India came. Like, have you heard of Krishnamurti?
Yeah.
He built his library and his home there. That's where he came to teach his message. And all sorts of really enlightened spiritual masters in the turn of the 1800s to 1900s found that valley from across the world. And so it's a very hotbed for aspirants seeking enlightenment. It's a very interesting place, the Ojai. A lot of the started there as well. The movie stars, the Charlie Chaplins, all sorts of film writers. Have you heard of the writer Frank Capra? He wrote that movie, It's a Wonderful Life.
I've seen the movie, but I didn't know who wrote it.
The guy who wrote it wrote another movie that you might enjoy. It's called The Lost Horizon.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a very spiritual soul, this Frank Capra. He wrote a movie about an aspirant that wanted to reach enlightenment, a British man who was an ambassador for the country of England. And it takes place right at I think it's the first, let me see, I think it's the First World War. And this man is an ambassador in an Asian country, and war breaks out and he has to get on a plane, and it turns out the plane is hijacked and the pilot basically he jumps out of the plane and crashes the plane into the Himalayan mountains. Mm-hmm. So they crash land onto the Himalayan mountains. One of the pilots is dead. The other pilot jumped out. A few people survive, and they're in the middle of the snow, and they're thinking they're going to have to start eating each other. And out of nowhere, a bunch of people from the Himalayan mountains, Sherpas, come, and this enlightened man just shows up and says, "Hello, welcome. We've been waiting for you." And they're like, "What the fuck is going on? We've been waiting for you? Like, we just crashed into a mountain." And he walks them for a day and a half through the mountains to a place called Shangri-La, which is the hidden valley in the Himalayan mountains, where everybody lives to 200, 300, 400 years. And it's the perfect enlightened place to reach God. It's a really fascinating movie. I won't spoil the movie for you, but it's worth taking a look at, The Lost Horizon. And the reason I'm telling you that story is because in order to film the perfect valley, the perfect Shangri-La, the filmmaker Frank Capra took a picture of the Ojai Valley, and he used that in the movie.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
The movie being The Lost Horizon.
The Lost Horizon. Yeah, it was, yeah. The movie was lost in the archives. It's an old movie. I think it was made in the 40s, either the late 30s or early 40s. And they actually lost some of the footage of the movie. So when you're watching the movie, it was destroyed, the actual film, the original footage, but the audio was kept. So it's parts of the movie, it's just a freeze frame, and you'll hear them talking, but they lost some of the footage. So you miss a little bit of the footage when you're watching the movie. It's a weird thing you'll see. It'll just, it'll freeze, but the audio will continue, and then it will come back to the footage. But it's a great movie if you're into seeking enlightenment. Very well done.
Okay.
Yeah. I just to give you my background a little bit, my dad that raised me, he had a very enlightening spiritual experience before I was born. And my whole childhood, he was chasing that understanding that came to him in a spiritual vision that he had.
Yeah.
And he would see circles within circles of human beings living in harmony with the earth, like birds nesting in the Hopi tradition. Do you know about the Hopis?
Yeah.
So he read Black Elk Speaks, and he was so inspired, he drove his car all the way to Arizona from Massachusetts to talk to Black Elk.
Right.
And yeah. And my mom remarried when I was 10 years old to a gentleman who went to Harvard Divinity School. So growing up around the table, the conversation was usually about comparative religions and people aspiring to be one with God. That was the dinner table talk every night. We had dinner 4 nights a week as a family.
It's 1 minute to the hour, top of the hour, Josh. You have any closing thoughts?
I'm just grateful for your time. And thank you for having a conversation about the divine light and aspiring to merge with the little bang. I guess if there's a big bang, then the little bang is the complete absence of everything. And then you merge into the divine light. So, and then it probably flickered.
No, it was before there was any light at all. The total darkness.
I know, I'm joking. I'm saying in my belief system, it's a cycle, much like an electron popping out of an atom. The entire universe is just one moment in time of popping out from nothing, creating everything for 13, 14, maybe 15 billion years, then popping back out and popping in. It's just a split second in God's mind. It's just a thought. We're just a little 14 billion year thought of God.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Could be.
I don't know. I'm not God.
All the empirical evidence points to every aspect of life as we know it and call it being cyclic, in cycles. So there is no reason that once it started, that it can't keep continuing in huge cycles, cycles within cycles. Yeah, could be.
One of the greatest things I learned in the last couple of years is that there's certain bacteria in the ocean that they were studying and thought that the bacteria was dead, but it turned out it was just living in a 200-year cycle. So it was moving so slowly that they couldn't perceive it.
Yep.
And I think that's what true spirituality is to vibrate yourself out of the brain's understanding of space and time that we've been taught to the true understanding of what's really going on. And thus you can perceive things that you don't perceive because they're happening outside of human time.
Yeah. Well, it was very nice talking with you, Josh. I don't have any last thoughts or a closing statement, other than it was a pleasure talking with you. Maybe we'll do it again soon.
Pleasure is mutual, and okay. I don't know. I'm looking forward to a time when we can meet in person, because I think that's a very, very different energetic exchange. And it's we probably won't have to talk that much. We can just sit in each other's presence. I think we'll have a lot of communication without any talking.
Okay.
Look forward to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a wonderful day.
And you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Cheers.